There was once a Yid who decided he wants to commission a Sefer Torah, a brand new Torah scroll, and have it donated for the community. And usually this is done with a tremendous celebration. Everyone gathers, you take out the existing Torahs and you make a parade. They greet the new Torah. It's a very special occasion. He got a scribe who came and started writing the Torah from scratch, specifically for this community. And it takes about a year if you do it full time. And he's writing the Torah. And finally, when the year comes to an end and the Torah is about to be completed, they make this big celebration. They invite everyone to come. They're going to finish it at his house and do a procession from his house to the shul where they're going to house and keep the Torah. So he is sitting in his house. There's live music playing. Everyone's sitting, getting ready for this great celebration. Men, women, children. It's packed. And in the middle of this beautiful event, a woman doesn't feel well. She faints. They try to call 911. They're calling Hatzalah. A few minutes later, she passes away. She dies. And obviously, people ran away and they left, and this one escaped, and this one didn't feel comfortable, and the whole celebration was called off. There was no party that day. There was no dedicating of the Torah that day. And this person felt terrible. So he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He writes like this: perhaps Hashem doesn't want my gift. Maybe I did something wrong. That such a thing has to happen right now. We're about to complete the final letters of the Torah, and this has to happen. It doesn't, why is this? Rebbe wrote back to him, and it's printed in the Kote Siches, in the back of volume 35, Chelik Lamed Hey. The Rebbe says the exact opposite is true. This woman, for whatever reason, had to pass away. And it could have happened when she's alone at home with no one around her. Perhaps the reason why you decided to give a Torah on this and this day, in this place, and she was invited, was that her final moments in this world, she should be surrounded by fellow Yidden, by those that could ease her pain and make it a little bit easier for her those final moments in this world. And this is how the Rebbe told him to view this experience. There's a famous saying that says, "Me'igra Rama lebira amikta." It's a Kabbalistic term which is used a lot in Chassidus, which means from a very high mountain to a low valley. When someone falls, it's difficult, it's painful. When there is a fall from a high place, it's even more painful. When you're least expecting it, when you're at the height of your joy, you're in the middle of a celebration, things are great, and then something happens, God forbid, that's the worst. We find that when Hashem told the Yidden to build a Mishkan, it was a long process. It didn't happen automatically. It took months of preparing, right? 2 months they constructed the Mishkan. They collected the goods. They prepared it. And then it was finally ready. By Chedesh Kislev, the month of Kislev. And they wanted to construct it, to start using it. And Hashem said, no. I want to wait till the month of Nisan, which is the birthday of Yitzchak, was born on the eve of Pesach, and we're going to have the Mishkan start to be used on that month. So they waited. But the week before the first day of Nisan, they had a preparation process, if you will. For 1 week, Moshe Rabbeinu put up the Mishkan every day, and then he took it down. In the Mishkan, they offered certain sacrifices. It was an initiation process, which went on for an entire week. And finally, on the 8th day, which we discussed at length yesterday, and you can see it in the video if you search on YouTube. Finally, the By the way, hello, Aaron, and hello, Baruch. Welcome, and you're welcome to it. Put questions, comments, we'll try to address them. Finally, on the 8th day, we're ready to bring the carbon, to start the Mishkan properly. I'm going to have God's presence. And they come into the Mishkan. And as we know, they didn't initially see God's presence. God's presence, the Shekhinah, would be expressed when a fire would come down from Shamayim, a fire would come down from heaven, and would consume the carbon. That was a sign, oh, the Shekhinah's here. And Aaron was quite disappointed because he felt that the fact that there's fire not coming down onto the Mizbeach, the fact that Hashem's glory is not present in the Mishkan is my fault. Why is it my fault? Because the reason why, why is it my fault? Because I was involved in the Egel, in the sin of the golden calf. Not that, God forbid, Aaron worshipped, and not that he wanted it to happen, but he tried to stall for time, and as a result, he kind of said, bring me the stuff, bring me the gold, I'll build the altar, we'll come. He tried to stall for time. In the end, it did happen. And he always felt maybe that's why the Mishkan is not being initiated properly. So much so, it says that when he came to the Mizbeach, he was scared to get close to it. Because when he came to the Mizbeach, he saw this vision of the horns of an ox. And he felt, that's the eagle, that's the calf, that's the Avodah Zarah that I was involved in. And Moshe had to tell him, don't worry, go, Hashem has forgiven you, has forgiven the Jewish people, you're good to go, and so on. It was something which was very, very difficult for him. And finally, after Moshe prayed, because Aaron complained to Moshe, he said, why did you do this to me? It's so humiliating. I come into the Beis HaMikdash, I am the high priest, I want to bring a carbon, I want to have Hashem's presence coming down, in the Shekhinah coming down, and it's not working. Better I shouldn't have went in. So Moshe went and he davened. And finally, the fire comes down, and now we know that Hashem is here, and the Mishkan is in operation. Okay, it was a very joyous time for the Jewish people, and for Aaron in particular. This stone off his chest was removed. He's finally okay. And during all this, what happens? Aaron's 2 sons die. Torah tells us Moshe and Aaron went into the Mishkan. Aaron brought the offering, and his sons Nadav and Avihu, they wanted to bring ketores to offer the incense by the Holy of Holies, well, inside the Beis HaMikdash, and a fire came, went into their nostrils, and they died. Torah doesn't even separate the beginning of the Mishkan by a pasuk, by one verse, and then tell you, they died. It's like right there at the high point, the peak of the celebration. Boom! His 2 sons died in an instant. It's a terrible thing, and I want to discuss today why is it that they died? How are we to understand their death? It's such a climax of the Jewish people's relationship with Hashem, especially for Aaron the high priest. How does all of this work? On a simple level, the reason why, and you can see this here, Rashi tells us, but we'll get to Rashi in a moment, but the reason why they passed away is because they wanted to go into inside the Beis HaMikdash, to the Mizbeach HaPnimi, the internal Mizbeach. We had 2 Mizbeches in the Beis HaMikdash. There was the external one, which was used for animals, for offerings of animals. Then there was the internal one, which was used for incense. We'll call it spices, okay, primarily. Now, the sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, they wanted to go inside and bring this greater type of sacrifice, the incense on the Mizbeach. And they took burning coals, bringing fire, and they put fire on the Mizbeach. And this was a mistake, because Hashem wanted that the fire should come from heaven. It should be a godly type of fire, not that the human should put his own fire there initially. And they messed up the process. They went and they brought fire on their own, and therefore they were punished and they died. Now, commentaries don't exactly accept this explanation. Rashi tells us, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, You could see in the first Rashi, Pasuk Beis, of today's Chumash, Vateitze Eish Mifnei Hashem, Vateitze Eish says Rashi. One opinion is from Rabbi Eliezer. He says, Loi Meisu B'nei Aaron, Eloi De Shahir Lachav Mifnei Moshe Rabban. What happened here? The sons of Aaron, he says, only died because they have ruled a halacha. They gave a ruling in Jewish law in front of Moshe without being told to do so. We have a principle. You can't come in front of your teacher, if he's a Rebbe, or even a Rav, and paskin a shaila in front of him. You can't give a ruling. It's disrespectful. And what they did was, on their own, they didn't ask Moshe Rabbeinu, who's in charge, can we go and bring an offering or bring a fire or do something inside the Kodesh? They went on their own. And because of that, according to Rabbi Eliezer, that's why they died. That's why the pasuk says, "Asher lo tziva esav." They weren't commanded to do so. They did it on their own, and because they did it on their own, it is considered to be wrong, and therefore they were punished and they died. Rabbi Yishmael gives a different reason. You know why the sons of Aaron died? Because they were drunk. Shesuye yayin nichnesu lamikdash. They went into the Beis Hamikdash intoxicated with wine. How do you know that? Where in the world did Rabbi Yishmael decide that these two sons were drunk and they died because they got drunk? Because right afterwards, what does Torah tell us? A law. When a kohen goes to serve, or anybody goes into the Beis Hamikdash, you're not allowed to go in intoxicated. Can't go in drunk. Why all of a sudden is it here? It's here because that's the reason why they died. Because they went in drunk. And they died as a result. So Hashem warns everyone else, don't go in. Rashi brings an example of a king who had a very close person. He was his right-hand man. And this right-hand man was standing around near some chambers that he wasn't supposed to go into. Standing around there, and he was poking his head inside. So the king killed him. And he appointed a different person to be his right-hand man. And the first thing he tells the new right-hand man is, don't go into these chambers. So now we understand the reason why the first guy was killed is because he went into these chambers. Says Rashi, according to Rabbi Yishmael, the reason why Nadav and Avihu died is because they went in drunk. How do I know? Because the first thing Torah says is, if you're drunk, don't go into the Beis Hamikdash. Okay. Regarding the first reason that Rashi brings, that they ruled a halacha in front of Moshe without permission, there's a story, Gemara tells us, dramatic story, about Chana and her son Shmuel. Okay? When Chana took her son Shmuel to Eli HaKohen after he was 3 years old or so, she took him to the Beis Hamikdash, and he came in, and she says, this is the son, I prayed for this son, which means for many years she didn't have a child. The whole story we're not going to get in right now. This is the Haftarah that we read in Rosh Hashanah. And she was begging and praying for a child. This story is as follows. When she came to the Beis Hamikdash with her son, she's going to give her son to the prophet. He's going to raise him and he's going to be dedicated to Hashem forever. They brought a carbon with them. And Eli the Kohen said, let's go find the Kohen who could slaughter this offering and bring it. And Shmuel was a little boy, but very knowledgeable. He said, you don't need a Kohen. You're allowed to have anyone who could slaughter this animal. You don't have to be a Kohen per se. And Eli said, you're right. But you just ruled something in front of me. Yeah, halacha is you have to die. So his mother, Chana, said, 1 second, I prayed for this. It's not replaceable. Thank God he wasn't killed. But you see an example, and this is what happened with Nadav and Avihu. They went into the Beis Hamikdash, and they decided on their own, let's go bring ketores. Let's go put coals and put a fire. 1 second, there's Moshe here. There's their father here. What are you doing?
Shmuel will die 52. 50 was a heck young.
Okay. Perhaps that's the reason why he died young.
Why? Because she don't. His mom allowed him, for 3 years.
Right.
So they took him out, from the.
Excuse me.
From the chorus.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So that's fine. So thank you for sharing it. So There's another explanation that says, and this you take from Chumash in Bamidbar, Torah tells us about Aaron's sons, Ubanim loyhayu lahem. They didn't have children, which means they never got married, they never wanted to get married, they never wanted to have a family, and as a result, that's considered to be a sin for them. Not God forbid if someone's not able to, or someone's searching. They decided we don't want to. Okay, so we have three different explanations of why the sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, died at the climax of the initiation process of the Beis Hamikdash. Reason number one is because they have ruled a halacha, a law, without permission on their own. They said, let's go bring Ketores. Number two, they went into the Beis Hamikdash drunk. And number three, they weren't interested in the responsibility of family life, the restrictions. I could tell you a lot of jokes on that. They decided who needs it. And they just wanted to live a life of fun. Okay? So it feels like yeah. So it feels like you get an impression of these two sons that they're basically wild. They're disrespectful, they're instinctive, they're drunkards, they're just loose cannons. And that's why they died. Now, does this explanation make sense? Is this a good enough reason to say that Aaron's children who died in the Beis Hamikdash were just wild drunkards? Okay. So let's see what happens. It doesn't make so much sense to say that. Why? Because what's Moshe's reaction after they pass away? Moshe sees his nephews dead on the floor of the Mishkan. Okay? And he tells Aaron, I see that these two sons are greater than me and greater than you. Why are they greater than me and greater than you? Because it says, B'kroivai ekodesh. I will be sanctified by those that are close to me. The fact that these two people died for something very, very minuscule is a proof that they're very holy. Because the greater a person is, the more Hashem is exacting with them. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu says that, you could see that they weren't wild kids. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu says that, I see that these kids are greater than me and greater than you, means that, one second, if they're so holy and they died in such a strange way, so quickly, so young, there must be a deep, deep reason here. They're special people. So they weren't just wild drunkards that were, rebellious, instinctive, and shirking the responsibility of family life, and that's why they died. There's got to be much more to it. So if you look at the Hasidic explanation, the internal part, the secret, a little, if you will, of Torah, you'll find an understanding, and it sheds a lot of light and carries an important message of what this all really means and how we could apply it to our own lives. Rabbi Akiva had a daughter, a beloved daughter. The great sage Rabbi Akiva, who was later he became the head of the Nasi Adar of his time, great sage of the Mishnah. He had a beloved daughter. And when time came for her to get married, he wanted to search and find the best bacher in the yeshiva. Okay, who's the top young man today, eligible? And he decided he found the best guy, Ben Azai. Ben Azai was another Tana. He was in the yeshiva. He was very studious. He never stopped learning. I'm sure he was also very kind and gentle and caring and all the other things that you need. And hello, Chaim, welcome. And he decided this is the one that's going to marry my daughter. Okay. And they make a big engagement party. And they're celebrating the engagement. And after the engagement party, a few days later, the chassan Ben Azai, the groom, goes over to his bride. His eyes are lower, and he says, I want to call this off. I want to break the engagement. Why? He says a few words, 3 words. Nafshi chashka b'Torah. My soul desires to learn Torah. That's what I'm looking for. I go and get married and have to deal with family life and have to come home a certain time. And then, God willing, there's kids. You got to take care of them. This one needs a doctor and this one needs a diaper change, shopping and schmopping and bills. I want to sit in yeshiva and learn Torah all day. So he decided he's going to break the engagement with the daughter of the greatest sage of the time. because it's going to disturb his learning of Torah. Okay. She agreed, by the way. And she said, fine. And it actually says that the young sheep goes after the mother sheep, which is an implication, the Gemara says. Yes. She went, very good. She went after her mother because her mother also was separated from her father when he went to study at 24 years old, for 24 years. Because when he was 40, his wife Rachel told him, go and go learn Torah. He was illiterate at the age of 40. And he went and started from the very beginning, which is a story in its own. But he became a great sage. Now his daughter, the engagement is broken. I believe she got married afterwards to someone else or whatever. But the point is like this, that he was a person, Ben Azai was a person who said, I don't want it. If you know the story about Arba Nichnesula Pardes, there's a story about 4 great sages that went into the garden. Now Pardes is an acronym, Pshat, Remez, Drush, Said, which means they entered into the secrets of the Torah. They went into the secrets of the Torah, and these are very mystical, deep Kabbalistic ideas. And no one survived it. Well, let me rephrase that. It was a difficult transition. One person went in and he died. Another great sage that went in became insane. He lost his mind. A third one became a heretic. He went against the whole Torah. Only Rabbi Akiva, Nichnas b'shalom v'yatza b'shalom. He went in peaceful and he came out peaceful. Who was the one that went in and died? Ben Azai. He was a person that was constantly looking, I don't want to be involved in this physical world. I want to be connected to God. I want to study. I want to daven. I don't need all this restrictions that are going to limit my spiritual experience. This, says the Rebbe, was the issue of Nadav and Avihu. They weren't young, rebellious, drunkards, irresponsible people. Not at all. They were very spiritual. And they were looking for very spiritual experiences. That's why it says, they had no children. They didn't want to have children. They didn't want to get married. They were looking for a life which is only holiness, only spirituality. And that's why when they went into the Beis HaMikdash, on the holiest day, really, up until that point, the greatest spiritual experience they had, God is coming down into a physical edifice that we worked so many months to achieve. And this is a forgiveness for the sin of the golden calf. It was a tremendous feeling. And finally, we're here. They wanted to have a little bit of wine to experience this even more, which they weren't supposed to. They said, who has to be told to do things? If you don't get it, you have to be told, go here, go there. We're so spiritual. Let's go into the Beis HaMikdash. You don't have to wait till Moshe Rabbeinu tells us to do it. Let's go bring the Ketores. That's what they wanted. Like, let's do this. I don't have to be told. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh, the Holy Orach Chaim, in his commentary, he says it beautifully. He uses 10 adjectives to describe what they were like. Okay? He says like this. They didn't hold themselves back from getting closer. Okay? They had dvekus, which means cleaving. Neimus, which means pleasantness. Arevus, so type of sweetness. Yedidus, friendship. Chavivus, love. Chashikos, desire. Metikos, sweet. Until their souls flew away. Kleis hanefesh, the flight of the soul. Okay, literally that's what happened. These people's soul left their body because they were so spiritually inclined. All they wanted was more spirituality, more spirituality. My neshama wants to connect to Hashem. People have this experience, by the way. It's not just for Nadav and Avihu. People have it on Yom Kippur. Okay? You're fasting all day. It's the end of Yom Kippur. It's Ne'ilah. It's the closing prayer. And you have this moment where you don't want it to end. It feels right. You're in the right place, the right time, the right frame of mind. This is spiritual. This is what it's about. You're not looking anymore. Oh, what time is it? When can I go eat? You don't even want the food. These people were living it all day, every day. This was their life. So if so, why did they die? Why is it considered to be a chait? Why is it a sin? I didn't do anything wrong. I wanted to be more spiritual. Spirituality, we said, is good. This exactly is the problem. Life is not about leaving the body. It's not about separating ourselves from the world. In other religions, yes, there are thinkings and belief systems which say, if you're holy, don't get married. If you're holy, live in an attic somewhere or in a cave and contemplate, spirituality. In Judaism, the challenge is be in a world and be holy. That's the challenge. Don't escape the body. Don't run away from spirituality. Stay in this world. From physicality, stay in this world. That's the pain of spirituality, where a person says he's spiritual. In Kabbalah, it's called ratzui. He's running, and you have to bring yourself back. You have this yearning, but you got to be settled. You want to run, but you have to sit down. There's something pulling at you, but you can't go there, because if you go there, then your soul leaves the body and the person dies. So we have to have spirituality in a physical sense. The way to have spirituality is to eat and make a blessing and make sure it's kosher and have the right intent. Live a physical life with purpose. Don't do things because I want to do it because it's exciting or it's fun. I want the pleasurable experience. Do it because there's a purpose in it. But don't escape it. A person should want to get married. He should want to have children. He shouldn't shirk those responsibilities and see them as a contradiction to his spiritual experience. So let's look at Nadav and Avihu. Were they good? They meant well. They were coming from a good place. They weren't looking just to have a good time. They wanted to be as spiritual as possible. And it resulted a little bit too far, and their spiritual experience led the soul to completely leave the body and connect to Hashem. This is, the Rebbe talks about it. He says, Nadav and Avihu, their souls needed to be reincarnated to have a tikkun. And it came down in the neshamas of Pinchas, Shmuel Hanavi, and Eliezer ben Azariah. 3 different sages, which, by the way, is an interesting topic on reincarnation altogether. How do you have one soul come multiple times, multiple people? It's a spark. It's a spirit of the soul. Okay, but who was Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah? He was a very, very great sage. He became the leader of the Jewish people at the age of 18. Now, some people don't know, he was extremely wealthy. He was so wealthy, there was nobody as wealthy in his time as him. The Gemara says he would give 12,000 calves every year for Maser Behema. Okay? There's certain tithings that have to happen. So the tithings of animals, his portion of tithing was 12,000 calves. Just of the calves. Tremendous wealth. How is this a tikkun for Nadav and Avihu? How is this a correction? Because Nadav and Avihu said, if you want to be spiritual, you got to be separate from the world. Eliezer ben Azariah was very spiritual, and he was a wealthy man. He was able to do both together. He could serve God. He could have all these spiritual experiences, if you will, and lead the Jewish people and be a great scholar, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, he could be very, very down to earth and have wealth and have dealings and run an enterprise, whatever it may be, all in that at the same time in that positive format. Let's look a little bit inside in the Chumash of today, and to understand a little bit deeper, and see it in the words of Rashi. So Shlishi in the Gutnik Chumash is on page 64. I want to join. This is the description of how amazing it was. Pasuk Chav Daled, page verse 24. Fire came out from before Hashem and consumed the burnt offering and the fats upon the altar. All the people saw, they sang praises and fell upon their faces. They were so inspired by what just happened. Finally, Hashem's Shechina has descended. Pasuk Aleph. Vayikchu v'nei Arei Nadav Avihu ish machtasei vayitnu v'hein eish vayasimu la'akteres vayakrivu l'fnei Adonai ish zara asher lo yitziva esam. Each of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, took his own fire pan. They put fire in them and placed incense on top, and they brought an extraneous fire before Hashem, which he had not commanded them to bring. As a result, and immediately after that, fire came out from Hashem. It consumed them, and they died in front of Hashem.
Why? When they see, that this Mizbach and Nechoshes, that comes, from heaven. So
why do they even try?
But why they got involved?
So the Rebbe says in the Chutei Sichos, beautiful explanation, that they said, we don't have to be told. If you're a great person, you understand. You're so spiritually sensitive. You get what has to be done, and I feel like this is what I should do. Obviously, it was a mistake, miscalculation. Rabbi Eliezer says that the children of Aaron only died because they have ruled a halacha, as we discussed earlier, in front of Aaron without permission. Rabbi Shmuel Eimer, they went into the Beis Hamikdash drunk. Teda, how do you know this? You should know. After they died, everyone else was warned. The other Kohanim were warned: do not go into the Mizbeach, do not go into the Beis Hamikdash if you're intoxicated. I shared this mashal before. A king who had a right-hand man, and he killed him, and then afterwards he appointed someone else, and he said, "Don't enter these places." That was the expression. That was the proof. The reason why he killed the first person is because he went into those areas. This is Rabbah, as the Medrash Rabbah tells us. Moshe said to Aaron, when Hashem said, "I'll be sanctified through those who I have chosen, and I will be glorified before all the people," this event is what he was talking about. Aaron was silent. At that moment, when he experienced such devastating loss, heaven forfend, he didn't say a word. When did Hashem say, "I'm going to be sanctified by those that are close to me"? Says Rashi. He says, it says, "I'll become sanctified in my glory." Don't read it in my glory, read it in my holy ones. Moshe told Aaron, Achi, my brother Aaron. Probably said, "Dear bro." No, my brother Aaron. I knew that the home of Hashem, the Beis Hamikdash, will be sanctified through those that are close, those that are known to Hashem. But you see, I thought it's either me or you. One of us are going to go. Now I see that they, another one of you, are greater than me and greater than you. This is what I mentioned before, where you see that they didn't do something wrong. They didn't die because they were drunk or because they ruled the halacha in front of Moshe without permission, or the fact they didn't want to get married because they wanted to shirk the responsibility. No. Clearly, there's something about this whole story that expresses that they were very holy people. And because they were very holy, yes, not the way it's supposed to be, and the lesson for us is that we should not leave physical life. But it wasn't that they were just wild or wrong. Aaron got rewarded for being quiet. What's the reward that he got? The word of Hashem was dedicated to him. When it comes to the next section, when Hashem says, "Don't go into the Beis Hamikdash intoxicated," Hashem says it only to him, which is very rare. Usually Hashem speaks to Moshe and Aaron, or Moshe to tell Aaron. But to have a section of Torah specifically given to Moshe, to Aaron directly, hello Slava, hello Shneir, was a reward for Aaron's being quiet. Which, by the way, it's a very important lesson. We should, God forbid, never to have this experience. When a person has something which they don't like, sometimes being quiet is very virtuous. It's not easy, but Hashem rewards you when you're silent. In those that are chosen, you see from here that it was a holy experience that happened. Yikra Moshe called per verse Dal. Moshe summoned Mishal and Al-Tzafan, the sons of Uziel, Aaron's uncle, and said to them, "Come close and carry your brothers from the sanctuary outside the camp." Date Aaron, says Rashi, Uziel Achi Amram Haya. He was the uncle of Moshe. He was the brother of Moshe's father Amram. Shema b'nei Kos v'Gemer, as the verse elaborates. A person tells his friend, take away the corpse from in front of the bride. We don't want to mess up this joy. Right now we have a situation where where we're inaugurating the Mishkan, we have to get rid of these two individuals that passed away because it's messing up the celebration. It's inappropriate. They came close. They carried them by their garments outside of the camp, as Moshe has said. The fact that Torah tells us that they were carried out by their clothes shows you they weren't just burnt up. Their soul was burnt in the sense that the fire went into their nostrils, and that's how they died. Which also shows you that it was some kind of spiritual death. It wasn't just they were burned. Moshe tells Aaron and his sons Elazar and Isamar, do not let your hair grow wild, do not rend your clothes when you carry out the service in the tabernacle, so that you will not die and so that he will not be angry with the entire community. In other words, they weren't able to mourn the passing of another Naviu in the regular way. Heaven forbid. Your brothers, the entire house of Israel, will weep about the fire that Hashem has caused to burn. Okay. Says Rashi, Al tifro, al tigdulu seir, don't let your hair grow. From here you learn that someone that is mourning is not allowed to take a haircut, because he's telling them, because you're koyanim on the day of inauguration, you must take a haircut. Don't let it just grow. You don't mess up Hashem's joy, the fact that today is the first day of the Mishkan. You shouldn't die. If you violate this, it has the death penalty. This teaches us that the pain of Talmidei Chachamim, the anguish, the suffering of Talmidei Chachamim, everyone has to mourn. It's not a personal thing, but it's a community thing. And don't leave the house, the Oyel Moed, because if you do, then it has the death penalty. Because you have Hashem, you have the oil smeared from Hashem on you, and they did as Hashem has said. Let's do the last 4 psukim. Now you have the special reward to Aaron for being quiet as he was experiencing this devastating situation, and as a result, Hashem speaks to him directly, and he tells him as follows: Yayin v'sheichar al teisht. Wine and beer, we'll call it. Don't drink, you and your children with you, when you go into the Oyel Moed, and you won't die. This is a statute, a word for generations, a rule for generations to come. Wine in a drunken way, which means more than a certain measurement, more than a rebellious probably. How do you know that it's only for the Oyel Moed and not for if you go to the Mizbeach? Maybe that part of the Beis HaMikdash I can. So you learn out from a pasuk the way the juxtaposition of it teaches you that you're not allowed to do that in any way. You can't have wine even when you're going just to there. To separate between the holy and the mundane, between the impure and the holy. If a person was intoxicated and he still went in and served, that service is considered to be invalid. It has to be redone. And to teach all the Jewish people all the laws that Hashem has told them through Moshe. It teaches us that a drunken person is forbidden to give rulings. I would think he's punishable by death, just like someone that goes into Beis HaMikdash drunk. Only Koyanim who serve if they're drunk get the death penalty. But if there is a sage who was intoxicated and he gave a ruling, he does not get that type of punishment. In summary, I want to say as follows: Nadav and Avihu, if you learn Chassidus, Chassidus teaches us that yes, they passed away, but it wasn't the result of some kind of immoral behavior or a frivolous type of living. It was an expression of their desire to connect to spirituality on the deepest of levels, which was wrong. And the lesson for us is that the way to be spiritual is not to separate from the body, but to live with purpose. Have all your physical things, your work, your clothes, your travel, your food, but do it with purpose, do it with meaning. Have a reason behind it to be productive, to be able to serve Hashem better, to be able to help those that are around you greater, to be an impact, to bring light and holiness to the world. Thank you for joining in person and on social media, YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem.